Hey, everybody. Yes, welcome back to the Paid Search Podcast. My name is Jason Rothman. As always, I'm joined by the great Chris Schaefer. Chris, don't know what happened last week. You had a caller on. This week, we're back to no caller. It's good to see you. Back to normal.
Yeah.
How's it going?
I tried, I put up the professional look, got tired, just put a t-shirt back on. It's me. It's me. I bring myself with no apologies. And hey, take it or leave it. This is what you get. You want professional? Well, I'm professional. Just don't look like it. I am. And Jason, you are so consistent. Thank you so much for working so hard and everything you do.
Wow.
You have brought us from 0 to 300. Most people say 0 to 100. You brought us to 0 to 300. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be here. Thank you so much.
I'm looking at what I titled this episode in our recording software, and I put PSP 204. I am always so off with the numbers.
It is hard to.
I think it's 303. I put 204 is what it is.
Yeah.
Chris, before we get started, just so everyone knows, we're going to be talking about we'll call it two really interesting things that we're finding out about responsive ads. Responsive ads, just to give everyone a brief overview, if things are the way they were when all this was announced earlier this year, at June 30th, so starting July 1, you won't be able to edit expanded text ads. You'll still be able to run them. You'll be able to pause them and then turn them back on as we understand it. But you won't be able to create new ones or edit expanded text ads. You'll only be able to create new and edit responsive search ads. So we've been diving in on it. We did a deep dive, I think 3 episodes in a row on it a month or so ago.
Popular.
Chris. Yeah.
They're very popular.
Very popular. But we found out something we talked about with the ad strength tool that was different than what we said in those episodes. So we wanted to revisit responsive ads to talk about that, responsive search ads. And then we also found out something really, really cool that we'll talk about in the second half of the episode. So that's what we'll be talking about today. But before we get into that, just an encouragement for everyone out there, please leave us a rating and review on your podcast player. We like reading those here on the show. And then we are 303 episodes into the show. And if you are looking for our early shows, we have those available at our website. Go to our website, and then on the sidebar, you'll see first 100 episodes or a menu item, first 100 episodes. And you can purchase those for a very low cost in our online store. So if you're looking for the first 100 episodes, that's where they are. Some of those are on YouTube, but some are not. And you can purchase the audio there at our website. So Chris, before we get into it, I mean, it's already March, doing good. Middle of March here. Nice weather. Things good down in Texas.
Yeah, it's been a long winter. I'm in Texas, so I'm where I should be. I know this winter is the same every year, but I am so glad for spring.
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward to me and how I'm thinking about things in August. Am I going to be that positive about, sweating and dying constantly? But right now I am so glad to see the sun. I'm so glad for March. I hear that, we might not, here in the US, we might not even deal with daylight savings times anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of cool. I mean, there's a lot of great stuff happening. So happy to
what's up with us, dude? We've fallen in love again, and we're back in the honeymoon phase. I called you up today 30 minutes before the show to talk about something,
just to chat. Yeah,
you answered my call. I mean,
I did.
That's kind of honeymoon.
And I said
phase
yes
right there.
To everything too. I didn't say no. I said yes.
And then I dropped I thought it was a really funny joke. And you giggled at me.
Absolute fire. Yeah.
And we're just, I don't know. We're just, we email, we chat. Everything's going good. We're in a good flow here.
Good. Yeah. I think we got a good thing going. And I at least feel like I have another 50 more in me that I can, I'm feeling good enough. I'm committed for another 50 podcasts, I think.
Yeah. We never know about you. So
yeah.
I just always hope for one. And sometimes we get it. Sometimes I say on average, honestly, we get about 0.75%. We get 75% of one.
Hey, I'm a busy guy. You kind
of fade out during those last 15 minutes.
There's a reason we do these at 1:00 in the afternoon, Jason. I mean, this is my prime. I
Yeah.
just got back from CrossFit.
Mm.
Hit a 370 2-time PR on deadlift. I mean, I'm on fire today. You can see it. It's just
Yeah.
I'm here.
So you still have that adrenaline rush and the
Mm.
pump from the workout. So it's good
Oh,
to catch you before that goes away and you start to feel the injuries
before I
that you're
just
incurring.
drop.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Well, let me tell you guys about how we're still here and how we have the energy to do this is because Optio is our sponsor and they have helped this podcast continue for a long time, years. And we want you to know about the tool that we are such big fans of. Optio, that's OPTEO. Optio is an online tool designed to help you get more done in Google Ads. So you ask, well, what can it do? Every aspect that we talk about on the show is a way that that Optio can help you get more done in Google Ads. We talk about ad copy. We talk about bidding strategies. We talk about display campaigns, YouTube campaigns, negative keywords, choosing new keywords. All of these things that you have to do on a regular basis is part of what Optio does to help you achieve success in your clients' accounts, in your own account if you're a business owner, and all of this can be yours for 60 days for free. If you haven't tried it, if you're among the few who don't use this amazing tool, you can try it for free for 60 days. That's twice the length that they give all those scrubs that don't listen to this amazing podcast. You can try it for free at optio.com/PSP. And they've made the process really easy. They've heard your concerns, and it's a really easy sign up. You can just sign up right there. We're happy to hear that you're on board with the greatest Google Ads software there is, and we thank them for their support.
Okay, thanks, Chris. So yeah, we're going to be talking today about the ad strength feature of the responsive ads, and then later in the show, stay tuned because we got some very, very special things planned in that segment. Yeah.
He says that a lot, but he means it this time. This is something special.
Thanks, Chris.
Not to belittle your word, Jason. It's just sometimes we talk up the excitement, but this is something special.
Yeah. Well, thank you. So, and we'll be talking about a very advanced feature. It was very cool. Okay. So, Chris, title of the segment is we need to talk about the ad strength feature on responsive ads. We need to talk about it.
We do.
Now, when we did our deep dive, we had said something to the effect of, well, we don't think ad strength affects quality score. I still don't think it does. But we kind of left it as like, well, we don't really think it really affects anything. It's more of just Google giving a grade to your ad to kind of point you in the right direction. And we left it at that. But Chris, you're looking at a visual here in our notes.
Yeah.
Something I've been seeing recently in multiple accounts. You have the status column on the ads page, the column for status. And it says eligible but limited in parentheses. And we all have seen limited many times with different approval issues or whatever. And but right under that, it says poor ad strength. And it's like, oh my gosh, could this be real? And it's like, does this actually mean my ad is being limited due to poor ad strength? So if you scroll down a little bit, and I kind of missed our notes here, Chris, but it's a few pages down.
Okay.
It says eligible, limited. Yes, it's actually due to ad strength. When you hover over it, it says a little yellow caution sign, poor ad strength. And then it tells me things I could do to improve that ad strength. And that is very concerning to me. And then you can see there on the ad type, it's a responsive ad. So hold on, WTF, what am I supposed to do with this? Chris, had you seen this before I pointed it out a couple weeks ago?
No,
this is new. Yeah. This is different than what we had said in that episode. This is why I wanted to talk about it, because it looks like if you have a poor ad strength grade, that your ad might be limited in, I guess that means how often it can show. Is that how you're understanding it?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, Jason, you brought it to my attention. I had not seen it, so I'm glad that you're bringing it up, and that's why we want to talk about it here, because we have to go back, and I think we agreed, and we said it multiple times in different ways. that we're not necessarily concerned about poor ad strength. You know, sometimes I want to write ad copy and I want to write it the way I want to write it. And if it says poor ad strength, I might ignore it. You know, I might not be concerned. The fact is, this limited this limited status is akin to having trademarks in your ad copy, right? You can see a limited status if you have trademarks. You could see limited status if you have max bids and you have 50 cent max bid CPC. You know, because max clicks. Sorry, if you have a max clicks CPC of 50 cents, you also might see the limited warning on there. So limited can be a really concerning thing. Essentially, what it's saying is this Google Ads campaigns engine is being throttled. Something is broken. That. Yeah, and it's not working. And what's scary is that you don't know how much.
You don't know how much.
There's no percentage to say how much is being lost. It just says limited, and that's scary.
And we've seen this with sensitive topics like stuff with the housing industry. It might say something like housing industry or something to that effect, eligible but limited. And it's one of those things. It's like, okay, well, maybe I am spending my full budget, and so, you know, I'm not being slowed down enough to where it's not allowing me to get the volume I want. But it still is horrible to see there. You're like, who am I not showing up to? How much better could it be if how much lower could I get my cost per click if my inventory was a lot more volume that I could show up on and show up
how
a
many
little
more
bit
impressions
lower? Yeah.
Could I get? Yeah. I mean, and you know, what am I losing out on? Yeah. There's no indicator. Just it's kind of the, you know, akin to having the warning engine light on, or, you know, the giant red thing that I've been ignoring for months on my truck. You know, I don't know how much is affecting things, but the engine's still running. I can just ignore it, right, Jason? It's fine.
Well, you seem to have ignored it for the first 100,000 miles.
Yeah.
Do you still have that truck, or is it a new one? A different
no,
one?
I still have it. No, I still have the same truck that. The speedometer doesn't work.
How many miles are we at?
180, 190,000, I think.
Things going okay down there, Chris?
Yeah, it's doing great.
Or are you just really cheap?
Oh yeah, no, I don't see the need in a new truck because this one drives, and eventually that warning light stops dinging, and it's fine.
And the truck stops moving.
No, that's rare.
Okay,
that's rare.
190. So you're pushing 200.
Yeah, I'm getting all my money out of it.
Let's get this guy a new truck.
Start GoFundMe.
Yeah. So double click on this ad I showed you, and then scroll over to the right. And I want to show you the problem I'm dealing with. I got two ads here, two responsive ads. One is eligible, but limited with poor ad strength. Similar click-through rates, 4.5%, but keep scrolling. Look at that hot conversion rate. One has a conversion rate of 2.7%, but the one that has the limited ad status because of quote-unquote poor ad strength. Well, sorry, but my poor ad strength ad is getting a 25% conversion rate. So doesn't that's what makes this thing tough, doesn't it? You know, it's like, I don't want to change my ad if it's doing that hot, you know?
Were both of these ads created at the same time?
I don't know, but they probably ballpark around the same time. And what's interesting, the one without the poor ad strength has like almost triple the triple the impressions. Yeah.
The impressions, the click-through rate's the same, but it's the impressions that scares me. You know, the conversion rate, great.
And Chris, here's what sucks. My ad, I have two responsive ads. The one that gets a 25% conversion rate is being showed 1/3 of the time. Right. I'd like that one to be shown way more and get more conversions. But it's not being shown because it apparently has poor ad strength.
And we assume, now we don't know this, but I assume if you paused the full strength ad, for lack of a better term, if you pause the full strength ad, you would probably see a drop in impressions, right? You would get less clicks, less impressions because this other one is limited.
Well, here's why this whole thing sucks is because you don't know the answer to that. I don't know the answer to that. And I hate going down that road in Google Ads and trying to figure stuff out that is unknowable. Like that's our whole thing. We accept that a ton is unknowable and we work with what we have. And so as soon as you go down that path where you're like, well, this is unknowable, but I'm going to make predictions on it. That's where I think
Yeah.
people get themselves into trouble with bad decisions. And that's what makes this tough.
Yeah. And I mean, you could even test it. We could come back next week and say, okay, well, Jason paused this ad and turns out that the impressions dropped. The thing is, that's this domain, that's this website, that is, this particular instance of keywords. That does not mean it's universal for everyone.
Mm.
It's all relative. So there is no knowing that, we would never be able to say, if you're a limited status due to poor ad strength, you're going to lose 40% of your impressions. We can't say that because there's no way to really know that, because it affects every account, every impression share differently.
So Chris, scroll down a little more. You can see I've got 2 images there. One says ad strength average. And what's very interesting is when I popped open this ad, even though my status column said poor, the ad strength tool, when you start editing the ad, said average. So they were giving me a poor ad strength and limited on the status, but they were showing me that the ad strength was average in the ad maker. So that was kind of weird. But you can see there what I'm missing is it says, hey, you haven't included popular keywords in your headlines. And
Yeah,
I would say, yes, I have, but this was in a very specific ad group where like the keywords all talked about the same kind of thing. And I noticed, yeah, you know what? I copied this ad over from another ad group. I am not using that term. And I was like, you know what? I'll play your game a little bit. You're right. I don't have that keyword. So what I did is I took out one of my 12 or maybe there's 15 or whatever, one of the many headlines. And I put in that keyword that the ad group talks about. And all of a sudden you can see the second image there. I get the check mark on the include popular keywords, and then the ad strength went to excellent. And I think that's a reasonable thing to do because all I had to do was change one of my headlines. That was the problem in this case. There's other problems that can come up with if you're not doing the responsive ads the way they want with other things like making headlines unique or descriptions unique. But in this case, all I was missing was a popular headline. Put it in there. I think that's reasonable to get the excellent ad strength and not be limited anymore. And I'm happy to have that show up in one of the headlines, that keyword. Now, the problem is with this include popular keywords saying like that I didn't run into in this situation. In this situation, the ad group was very focused. It was focused on basically one kind of keyword that can be searched for in many ways. So I could use one version of the keyword and feel confident that the ad can speak to all the keywords in the ad group. If you have a more open ad group, like say you're running a bunch of broad keywords, trying things out, well, you might just not be able to put all the popular keywords in the headlines. You just might not be able to get your ad strength up past poor or average, and you might get limited with your status, but you have to balance that with trying a super open ad group if that's what you're trying. So you got to let go of perfection, I guess, is what I'm saying with Google Ads. You got to focus on what your strategy is. In this case, I could do a little tweak and work within the system, but I could see some cases where I couldn't. How does all that sit with you, Chris?
Yeah, there's situation. I have to say, this is a odd stance to take, but I'm glad that Google at least gives us a warning that our eligibility status is limited at the campaign level due to this. Because imagine if it does limit us and they don't warn you that it's limited, right?
Good point, yeah.
Because there are no other warning signs. And it's nice to know that. It's at least nice to know that your decisions are limiting the reach of your ads. So I am glad to see that. And I have immediate 2 examples of clients that are screwed either way. Okay, Jason, you are selling a.
No wonder you. Yep, never mind. I had a joke
about my truck again, right? The only reason I have 2 clients, that's why I have a 200,000-mile truck.
But that's a good joke. Wow.
Okay,
you should loosen up on the show a little bit, Chris. I didn't know you had jokes like that.
Yeah, I don't put them up because I got the beast with me here who can just slam them down so fast. But let's say you sell a WordPress service or something like that. WordPress you cannot put in the ad copy. You cannot say WordPress. So you are now between a rock and a hard place. You can put WordPress in there and you can be limited status, or you could not put WordPress and you're going to have limited status because you don't use your keywords in your headlines. Okay. So either way, you're limited. Another example, let's say you work on Toyotas, you have cars, you're working on cars, or you're even selling cars, but that's maybe you're selling used cars. You're not an official licensed dealership, but you're selling used cars, on the side of the road or something. You want to run ads. You can't say the word Toyota. You can't say Toyota in your ads. And then you're either going to get limited because you put Toyota and maybe even just disapproved entirely, or you're limited because you don't use the word Toyota in your ads. So, I mean, I'm glad that we at least know that either way we turn, we're going to be limited. But for many advertisers, this is frustration faced with frustration, for Google to put the hammer down on, you must be relevant. The relevancy hammer is smashing pretty hard right now.
Yeah, I really hope they somewhat loosen this up, because again, my example with if you're running broad keywords in a campaign in one ad group, and you're like, hey, I'm just going to throw a bunch of stuff at the wall and see what clicks. And then maybe from their argument, well, search users don't want to see a bunch of stuff at the wall. They want to see something spot on. And that's why we have these relevancy rankings, whether it's ad strength or quality score.
It stifles, to me, it seems like it stifles creativity, but there's a balance. How much creativity do you want to give to the Google Ads world out there, and how much, relevancy hammer do you want to bang down and say, you must follow these rules? There's a balance here. It feels like the balance is weighted, with this new revelation. It feels like it's really heavily weighted because, as I've said many times, you can build the best structure in your ad groups, the best campaign settings, the best keywords, the best negative keywords, the best bid strategy, but your ads are the only thing that show. Your ads are the only thing that show across the Google network. So what you put in your ads determines the success and failure of your Google Ads campaign. And this is what you show the world. There's a whole engine behind your ad, but the only thing you show forward is that ad copy, the headlines.
And the issue I ran into was including popular keywords in your headlines. And luckily, all I had to do was put in one more keyword and they would bump up the score to excellent. But you could have, again, the multiple different kinds of keywords in an ad group, and it's hard to fit all of them in the headline. You also have an issue of what happens if you have keywords you're targeting that don't make sense as ad copy.
Yeah.
Even though they're spot on keywords. So that's a problem. And then you have more headlines unique, descriptions more unique. Well, that's you're making ads for your search user, your customer base, and the human being making the ads might know a whole heck of a lot more about the search user than the computer system does, giving the ad strength, the artificial intelligence or whatever. And that's where it can be frustrating, where it's like, no, this is the ad copy that's going to connect with my customers. I can see that with conversion rate and click-through rate, but now you're throttling me. So I guess it's just a situation by situation decision in terms of how much you want to move in their direction. Just some common issues, Chris, we'll link to this article about ad strength for responsive search ads from the Google Help, but it's like, you can have stuff like you can have stuff like headline and descriptions are too similar, headline and descriptions are too short, not using popular keywords in your headlines, and you could add more keywords to your descriptions. That can help, and then pinning can reduce how often the different ways your ad can be shown. And I think they don't like that. I've seen limited poor ad strength when
simply
people have
because
pinned a lot.
Yeah, and I see that a lot. I see, and I totally understand. I used to be there before we did our deep dive into responsive ads. I was like, "You're not taking control from me, Google." I really hate this. I really hate that I can't make sure that my message is succinct to exactly how I want to say it, the order that I want to say it, the headlines that I want to say it. So I'm going to use pinning, and you could have everything checked. You could have a excellent ad strength, and because you've done all the keywords, you've done everything, and then you pin 2 or 3 headlines into first position or second position, or you pin one headline, right? and then you could get limited because you have poor ad strength. And let me explain something. I think it's actually more of a detriment to pin one, and tell me if you agree, Jason. I think it's more of a detriment to pin one headline to any place more so than pinning 5 number one positions. And the reason I say that is because when you pin, as we've learned in our old episodes, when you pin one headline to first position, that means that one headline is always in first position. So the amount of variation that Google can show is highly limited whenever you restrict that. So that if you're going to pin, if you're going to go down that road, I would suggest you pin multiple to first position, because you're limiting how much variation you can do if you just pin one.
And I would say I'm hesitant about pinning.
Period. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sure.
I don't think you can go wrong not pinning. I think you can get yourself in trouble pinning too much.
Yep. I agree.
So Chris, just to answer our own question here, I'm curious what you're going to do. What are you going to do when you see limited status on your ads? I'll give you what I'm going to do. I'm always going to fix it within reason. So I really hate the idea of being limited. It's just negative to see that there. And then we've talked about the consequences that are just kind of unknown, but they're probably there when your ad status is limited. So I'm going to try to fix it and do like what I did in this example. Just if I can add one more keyword to a headline, great, and fix it. But I'm going to fix it within reason. Like if I am trying multiple kinds of keywords, broad keyword, really, really loose ad group to try stuff out, maybe it's a small part of the budget and I can really benefit from doing things that way, I'm not going to be so worried if I see that status there, if it's kind of unfixable given that strategy. But I'm going to fix it within reason. How are you going to approach it if you see the limited status? If anything, are you even going to worry about it?
Well, I agree. I don't feel like I'm as concerned if I'm doing a broad campaign, like a wide reach kind of campaign, which we've talked about many times on the show. And if I'm doing that and I have limited status, and like you said, there's nothing that I can do every time I, delete a headline and replace it with a keyword, it's still not specific enough. I'm still not hitting a right proportion of keywords. In that case, I'm going to leave it. But any other situation, I'm going to fix it. I mean, if it means, and I think this is what Google wants from us, is this, situation one is you can't fix it. Situation two is this is the only solution. You have to break up your ad groups. And I think this is what Google wants. So, if you're Joe and you're sitting there going, I listen to the podcast and now I understand what this means. And I realize it's a big deal. If you're trying to fix it and you can't saturate your ad copy with enough keywords, you're going to have to split your ad group. You're going to have to take and find which keywords fit into one theme versus which keywords fit into another theme. And now you create 2, maybe 3 ad groups. Now you'll be able to write truly strong, excellent ad strength ads, because you were trying to honestly kind of be a little too lazy with one ad group. What should have been 3 ad groups, you were only doing in one ad group now.
Yeah, I mean, lazy man build like very lazy works as far as keywords go and as far as ads go when you're in full control. Because let's say moving company in Dallas or moving company in Dallas-Fort Worth metro area in Texas. In the old days with expanded text ads, you could put those 2 geo cities as keywords in the same ad group, call it Dallas-Fort Worth. And in your ad, very common sense thing, just saying serving the entire Dallas-Fort Worth metro area, moving company in Dallas and Fort Worth, whatever. But now the system is going to want to see both of those keywords as headlines: moving company Dallas, moving company in Fort Worth. And if someone's sitting in the middle of Dallas and they do a search moving company Dallas, and the ad that was chosen, the headline that was chosen is moving company Fort Worth, 40 minutes away. Yeah. Well, now you got a problem and you can't be as lazy, and maybe you should have an ad group and ads for Dallas and an ad group and ads for Fort Worth. I see this guy's got a live studio audience.
Yeah. Come on. I got my secretary here. Jason, I pause here for a second, but today is St. Patrick's Day. So I ordered in just a little celebration for us. We're recording on a Thursday, St. Patrick's Day. Got a Modelo here. I know you're not going to join me, but just a little celebration ahead of time.
Okay.
I know you're gonna have to edit that in the show. Don't take that.
No, we don't need to edit anything. It's just weird that you picked. Yeah, I've got a Dos Equis with me on my side for St. Patrick's Day. There's so much Irish liquor and beer, and you went with the Mexican beer. Interesting.
Well, I'm in Texas, and this is one of my favorites. So
yeah,
happy St. Patrick's Day.
All right, cheers. I got a Powerade.
That's good.
Okay, so Chris, we got some interesting things coming up. Glad we covered that part of responsive ads. Now we're going to be talking about an advanced location feature inside responsive ads, and we're going to be doing a deep dive on it. So stay tuned, and we will get into that right after this break.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I want to remind you, pause this podcast and check out optio.com/PSP if you haven't already. Amazing tool. Jason and I hear from listeners all the time that write in, people that we just meet on the street and just tell us about how much they love this tool. It's become a daily part of their process, and that's exactly why they built the tool. But the tool is designed for increasing your management efficiency. I mean, it is truly an optimizing tool for the professional. If you're trying to build a Google Ads business and you're getting more and more clients, and you're wondering how can I increase my workload without working another 5 hours in the day, this is the kind of thing you need to work with. So optio.com/PSP to get a 60-day free trial.
Okay, thanks, Chris. So let's get into this advanced feature in responsive search ads. So let me go to my notes here. So there's an advanced location feature in responsive ads, and I want to give a shout out to Ryan Suchit. He's a listener of the show. He's got a YouTube channel called Ryan Suchit, and the video that kind of inspired this segment is on YouTube. We'll link to it in the description. It's called a hidden responsive search ad feature you and your clients will love. And I do love this feature, Chris. So there's something on your keyboard called a curly bracket or a squiggly bracket or braces. Go ahead. Okay. What do you call it?
I was just going to say, are those the official terms? Did you look that up?
I did because I prepare for this show. I don't have to spend hours every day getting my car ready to drive just for one drive because it's got 700,000 miles on it.
That was good. See, that's why I don't throw out jokes around here. Got the king of the jokes. I was just wondering if curly brackets is actually the name. It seems kind of
it's kind of an unknown thing. Technically, it's called a bracket. And just like below the curly bracket, there's a regular bracket, but this is called a squiggly bracket, curly bracket, or braces. It's kind of one of those unknown
braces. Okay. Well, thank you, Jason.
Yeah.
There's so much information.
Yeah. So at least on an Apple keyboard, there's a return button. And then above that, there's one little slash thing. And then to the left of that, there's these squiggly brackets.
It's a forward slash.
When you hold down shift. Thanks.
I knew that.
Remember at the beginning of the show, Chris, we were in love. We were in our honeymoon phase.
Is it over?
We sound like the married couple arguing at the vacation resort over dinner or something. Let's not ruin the mood for everyone else.
Right. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay. And you started it by questioning my knowledge of the squiggly bracket, the curly bracket, the braces.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.
But you've been drinking a little too much. That's probably what's going on. All right. Anyway, so yeah, there's this whatever the thing.
The thing.
If you know the thing, if you're in a responsive ad, if you're making a responsive ad, it doesn't matter if you are in the display path. Well, it does for a couple. You don't have as many options, but if you go to a headline, and let me see what it looks like on a description, or if you go to a description and you type in a curly bracket, as soon as you do that, you'll have three options come up in a drop down. You'll have keyword insertion. We know about that. You can put in a keyword, or well, I don't know. If someone searches your keyword, it'll fill it in, and we've never really been down with that. You have a countdown, which I don't really ever use, a countdown option. But then you have this cool thing, which I think is going to be awesome for a lot of the service companies trying to get leads that I work for, location insertion. And again, this was, I want to thank Ryan Suchit for this video. You put in location insertion there, and basically, as I understand it, and we'll read through the help documentation, but if Google knows the location of your user, they will put that city name in if you select city. They will put the state name in if you select state, and they will put the country in if you select country.
Yeah.
But if Google doesn't know the city, state, or country, whatever you select to put in there, then they will put in your default text. So the example Ryan gives is you could select city, and then I think in his video he mentions New Jersey. So you could have default text of New Jersey. And let's say you're a moving company and someone's in New Brunswick. If Google knows they're in New Brunswick, you could have ad copy that says movers in, and then this, if they're in New Brunswick and Google knows it, if this feature's in there, then it'll punch in New Brunswick, and the person will be like, whoa, someone's in, this movie company's in my city. I'm going to click on their ad. And then if Google doesn't know they're in New Brunswick, which I got to Google that.
You're right. You're right.
City in New Jersey. So if Google doesn't know they're in New Brunswick, then it'll put in New Jersey because that's what you put in as the default text, and that will still make sense because you're a mover in New Jersey. Am I understanding this correctly? Yeah.
I mean, the way I understand it is if the system has any kind of, fail, if they're matching because they're just showing to be in New Jersey, they're not going to just randomly pick a city, or, if there's if they're matching to, something that isn't going to, the system is not going to work properly. The default text is there to cover anything that might, that might not work, and it's just going to show the state. So, I mean, it's really, really quite powerful. I mean, I don't want to steal your thunder. I'm not sure, if you want to talk about how to use it, but I have. Well,
let's get through the details again, and then we'll talk about examples on how to use it. I'm just reading from the help document. Location insertion lets you tailor your responsive search ad text to your customer's location, regular locations, or locations of interest. Location insertion for RSA highlights the location in the ad text where your product or service is offered. Let's say how it works. Let's say you own a delivery service that delivers to all cities in the Bay Area. Instead of writing individual headlines for each city and then having ad groups like that old school mindset, you could use a location insertion code. Google Ads will try to replace this code with your location in your ad group. So I guess what I'm questioning, Chris, as I understand it, it's not so much the key. It's not at all the keyword the person searched. That's just tied to your keywords. But like they don't have to search movers in New Brunswick for this to fire. It's more so your targeting, your location targeting. And if Google thinks that customer's location or regular location, or if you're set up for this, their location of interest happens to be New Brunswick, then it'll swap in New Brunswick. And that's how I understand it.
Yeah. And there's definitely a bit of
mystery,
confusion about how it's going to target that, because we know that Google does not always show ads based on your location. It also has to do with interest. So, of course, as there always is, there's going to be questions and a black box of, well, what about this situation? What about this situation? But I would say that I would guess to say 95% of the time, this is probably going to work just like you want it to work. I don't think that, I would be willing to trust it if it means that I can take something that would be overly complex, right? Something that's going to require, a whole bunch of ad groups.
You're in the Dallas-Fort Worth metro area, and instead of making an ad group for like what we talked about earlier, Dallas, Fort Worth, Katy, Texas, all the other cities, Arlington, instead of having to do that, you could have Dallas-Fort Worth metro as the default. So if
Mhm.
Google can't recognize their city, it defaults to Dallas Fort Worth metro area or whatever,
Mhm.
DWF, DFW, whatever.
Yep.
And then if Google does know their city, it'll punch in the city. So you can have moving company in, and then it'll match their city, and you can
Yeah.
be lazy with one
So
ad group.
so all the different cities in Dallas Fort Worth area, you might have 25, 30 different ad groups. And this little hack here, this little tool, it's not a hack. I mean, it's very,
It's a
very,
tool.
yeah, it's a tool designed by Google. So I don't want to call it a hack, but this little tool can keep you from having to build 20, 30 ad groups in order to cover those large suburbs all around DFW. So, I mean, it's a simplification tool. It's an amazing tool.
Now, as I understand it, Chris, someone could search moving companies if that's one of your keywords, or moving companies near me, or office moving companies, or whatever.
Mhm.
And if you have this in your ad and Google understands where their location is, then it will fire. It doesn't. My understanding is it's tied to the user location, not they don't have to put like a geo in the keyword or something. That's
Yeah.
my understanding.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about some uses. I talked about how a moving company would use it. Were you wanting to get into some ideas for it?
Well, I mean, I think you had the best example
Yeah.
there. Honestly, I mean, that's how I would use it is a simplification. So instead of the tired and overused, geographic ad groups where you forcibly take a keyword and say, Arlington movers near me, and you have every iteration of Arlington, and then you negative out Arlington and all your other 25 ad groups. So Arlington's only going to go to this one. That is a very well documented way to fail, because you're all you have to do is go and look at the search term history of one keyword to figure out that keywords no longer match to individual words the way they used to. So
Mhm.
you can no longer say, this is my Arlington ad group, because search intent and relevancy and keyword blurring basically means that you can't guarantee that Arlington isn't going to get other cities, and that if you target Fort Worth, you're not going to get other cities in that same ad group. And the last thing you want to do is be an overbearing negative keyword manager and completely just forcibly block out every other thing. You're going to lose impression share. It becomes an absolute management mess. And I think this tool is a great way to avoid that mess.
Yeah, definitely. So, Chris, this is a new tool to me. I have not used this before, and
Yeah.
we got it from Ryan Suchit. So I want to take this podcast to the next level, and
Oh
I want to
boy.
bring in the man himself, Ryan
The
Suchit,
man.
to talk
Okay.
about his experience using this advanced location tool. So we'll bring in Ryan Suchit right now. Okay, so now we have the man himself from the YouTube video right onto our podcast here, Ryan Suchit. Ryan, thank you for coming on the show. I know it was kind of last minute notice here, so we appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here. Listen to you guys every day on my way to work. So
Awesome.
wild to be on the show.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
Great.
Well, yeah, I mean, we appreciate you putting out that YouTube video. I haven't been very familiar with this feature in the past. I've always known that with the curly brackets, you could do dynamic keyword insertion. That's something I've never really been attracted to. So because of that, I never really use it that much with expanded text ads. But I guess with responsive ads, I'm assuming this is new to responsive because I hadn't seen it before. But we have this advanced location thing that you kind of told the world about with your video. So wanted to bring you on, just ask you a few questions. I guess first question is kind of how long have you been using this? How did you stumble across it?
Sure. So I've been using it. I think I looked and it was about August of last year. I didn't find any information on it. I was just playing around with the responsive because I'm sure probably around that time is when we started knowing responsive is going to be the future.
Yeah.
So then I was playing around in there and I saw the option and I've been using it ever since.
Awesome. So let me clarify with you what we were talking about earlier. My impression is that to get this thing to fire, and if you're showing cities, to show the city that the user's in, or to use the city that the user's in as the ad copy, Google looks at the location of the user, and it's and it's not that the user had to type something special with a keyword like moving company Dallas or something like that. Like if your keyword is moving company, they type moving company, you've got this in your ad, and Google sees that they're in Dallas, then Dallas can show up in the ad copy. Is that correct? Is that the way it works?
That is the way it works. And that's really the beauty of it, right? Because back in the day, that was the problem with, trying to target, if you're going after the whole US, trying to put the city in there. The only way you could really do that without a bunch of campaigns was if only for the keywords that had the geo in it, then you had that in an ad group. But now you can totally automate it.
Awesome. That's something we hadn't even thought about, Chris, was running a national campaign where you have to use cities. That this would be a huge simplifier. But go ahead, Chris.
Yeah. One thing we were talking about before you came in, Ryan, is do you have any idea, about the consistency or how much, issues there might be with it showing the person's intent versus where they're located, or how many times the system might fail? I mean, have you tested it at all to see, how secure you are in using it? Because I feel like a lot of people are going to say, well, yeah, I want to do that, but I'd rather go back to doing it myself because at least I can know and I can see how much is happening versus, again, trusting Google all over again and just trusting that they're going to do it the way that you want. I mean, any assurances that it is consistent and worth trying?
Yeah. So honestly, the consistency is, the fail-safe is the default text. That's your first fail-safe.
Sure.
So, and it is based on the location, right? So if they're for some reason wrong on the location, that means your whole targeting is also wrong, if that makes sense. So I think that's one of the biggest benefits of the fail-safe. And I don't know if you guys used to do the old location insertion way. I never did, but it was pretty wild, the technical stuff you had to do. So
yeah, I never did because it was outside of my abilities. I didn't really understand all the stuff that was required. So yeah, I never used it.
Yeah, I think I would not be worried about Google getting the location wrong. I'm 100% confident they're going to be right about that. I think what I'd more so be worried about this with people doing it is user error and people not thinking through the way the ad could show that using the city name or whatever location you decide could show up in the ad, or the way their default text could come off. So I think people really should think through what this looks like if they're going to use it. But then assuming you do that, I think it can be pretty powerful. Ryan, I work with a lot of B2C companies, local service companies. This can be huge for them because we're already doing this with the keywords. Like we'll go back to the Dallas example. Someone runs a company out of Dallas, but they work with clients or customers all over the metro area. And we know how people do searches in Google. A lot of it is they use the city names in the searches. So this could really be awesome. And they like seeing their city name there in the ad. What kind of results are you getting with this? Have you found it to be helpful?
Yeah, so I was looking at the click-through rate difference, and to be honest, it wasn't enough to really brag about in terms of that part. And also because of the fact when I did this, it's right when I was going to responsive. So I'm like comparing the data, it's expanded to responsive too. So that could have messed with the data.
Yeah.
But honestly, the biggest benefit to me is the ease. So like I run campaigns, say, across the US, right? And before, if you wanted the city name in the title or even the state name, right, you'd have to have separate campaigns. So this is a nice way of just having one campaign. And, it's not just the ease either, which is huge for me. It's also the fact that, sorry, I'm losing my train of thought here. It's the fact that you have everything in one campaign, right? And Google likes a lot of data. So as you know, like if you're running for like a smaller budget, but it's a national and you have like 10 to 20 different campaigns because you wanted everything separated, the data is just coming in like way slower, right? So I love having a bunch of data in one campaign and with bid adjustments and all that stuff.
That's a
Yeah,
that's such a good point because no, my turn, Jason. It's such a good point because I have I have a client that has like 50 campaigns, and we split all the different states and.
Mhm.
Optimized bidding, automated bidding is not even an option. Even though I may not really be a fan of it, I can't even try it because when I split those conversions across 50 campaigns, they only receive sporadic conversions throughout the month. So I absolutely agree. I mean, there's a lot of value in packing all of that data into one campaign. I didn't even think about that. That's a good point.
Yeah, Ryan, I'm not surprised by that, Chris. Ryan, you make a good point that it's not just about the ease of use for the manager, because we have the Lazy Man build series that you probably know about being a listener of the show. And the joke there is that it's not about being lazy, even though Chris drinks during the day and might need campaigns like that. But that's the joke. It's not about the manager being lazy. It's about making things as simple as possible is truly how you get the most effective management. Because like you're saying, you can put everything in one place or a few places as opposed to 50 or 100 different campaigns, and you can gather that data, and it leads to better and better decisions. And it also plays with the Google system, which they seem to like to do a lot of things automated. Even if you're doing non-automated bidding, a lot of it is still automated in terms of where your ads show, what searches they show on that are related to your keywords. And so it just plays with their system well. So I agree with you. It's we'll see. I guess if it outperforms, that's going to be a account by account kind of thing. But in general, it should always kind of help the manager be able to get better results because you can keep things simpler. So, Ryan, thanks for coming on here last minute. We appreciate it. What else are you hiding from us? What other secrets do you have out there?
Yeah.
And if you don't have any today, where can people maybe find you and follow you and kind of learn from you?
Absolutely. So I have a YouTube channel. You could find it at youtube.com/Ryan Suchit. Yeah. And I share all kinds of tips just like this one.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
we appreciate it, and we'll put a link in all the descriptions. And yeah, thanks for coming on the show, and we appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me, guys.
All right, Chris. Well, that was really fun and awesome to be
Mhm.
able to interview Ryan about this advanced location feature and responsive ads. Want to make sure everyone knows about Paid Search Podcast newsletter. You can sign up at paidsearchpodcast.substack.com. We send this out weekly, and we kind of let you know what the most important lesson was from each show, so you can get it in a very quick format. And we'll have links to the video of the show and the audio. So sign up there. And then, Chris, where can you be reached at for
I can be
your
reached.
beer reviews?
Yes, for my beer. I can be reached at chrisschaefer.com. You can find me there if you would like. You can. It's chrisschaefer.com.
Made me spit up my drink, Chris. Slurring your words in your plug. That's hilarious. And Chris is up. Okay, there he goes.
Okay, I'm here.
You can reach me at rothmanppbc.com. And we will hopefully be back next week here on the Paid Search Podcast.
If Jason can make it.